Hello, I'm Orestria, and this is Heroes of the Storm Patch Watch. You may have noticed I'm not doing as many of these. That's kind of for my sanity's sake. It was getting too much work for too little value doing one for every weekly patch. So instead I'm going to do it for major patches, if there are major reworks or these PTR patches. This is the Guldan PTR Patch. I hope you enjoy. Alright, so I just spent 3 hours trying to get OBS to record the PTR, and I can't. So I'm recording this on the live server, so I'm talking about changes to be, and I won't really be able to demonstrate things very well, unfortunately. So first off, obviously the PTR has the new hero Guldan. I don't traditionally talk too much about the new heroes during these, because lots of other people talk about the hero, and this is about the patch notes. So if you want to know more about the hero, find one of the bajillion people talking about the hero. What I do want to talk about is some of the general changes to the game that have made the PTR, and I'll talk about all the talent changes, including at least one major rework. First off, there's now bonus XP for playing auto-select if it's during a time where one hero has a really high wait time. So for example, when a new hero comes out, like Guldan, there's always a really long wait time to play the new hero. If during those times you play auto-select instead, you will get bonus XP on whatever hero you get auto-selected onto, aka Malfurion. Hope you enjoy that. They've tried to add more visual indicators to make it obvious when there's a movement speed slow or a movement speed buff. And they're trying to have it obvious whether it's more or less than 20%. So there'll be one indicator for being slowed, and one for being really, really slowed, and one for having a speed buff, and one for being really, really fast. And what I've noticed is they've actually buffed a lot of things that give you a speed increase, push it over the threshold to make it 30% instead of 25%, so it'll get that extra fast animation. Which is really cool because I always really like speed bonuses, especially if you're a tank or something. You really want to be able to get into position to body block. If you're a squishy assassin, you want to be able to juke, especially if you're someone like me who has shit for reflexes. Juking can really keep you alive. Brawl just does not set off the bomb at all. There's also supposed to be some effects for hitting shielded targets. Although, I mean, I don't see how that really matters as much. Also, on the minimap, you may notice that I can't tell if I have a healing fountain or not unless I click and look. I can't tell if they have a healing fountain or not unless I click or look. In the PTR, there will be a little plus sign right on the tower. So right here on your minimap, there will be a little plus sign that tells you that there is a healing fountain. Rejoin is now optional for training, custom games, and versus AI games where you're the only human player. You do not have to finish those games anymore. Freedom! It's never been a problem for me, but I know a lot of people are complaining. It was kind of counterintuitive.
I don't want to.
Also, AFK detection has been changed in a way to help stealthies and bird form midiv. Obviously they're not any more specific than that, because they don't want people to know exactly how AI detection works. But the idea is, if Mediv is doing some really useful scouting, or if one of the stealthies is doing a really useful scouting, they won't get penalized and be marked as not functioning. It was the direction I meant. There are two major general game changes happening to the game in the upcoming patch. And one of them has to do with health globes. I've just tried 3 times in a row to kill the wizard minion and not collect the health globe, and apparently I'm just too fat to not collect the health globe. Anyway, regen health globes have been buffed. They used to give 8% of your max health and 32 mana. They now give 12% of your max health and 8% mana. That percentage mana is a big difference. Spellcasters can have 700, 800 mana or more if they complete Conjurer's Pursuit. And so 32 is not doing you much. 32 mana isn't even a spell. 8% mana should be a lot more sustain. Speaking of sustain, they have also made some changes to the healing well. Now, they have increased the cooldown. So the cooldown used to be 100 seconds, it's now going to be 120 seconds. It's going to give you about the same amount of health back, but it's going to restore more mana than it used to restore. 30% of your mana. That's really nice. These changes are here not only to help with general sustain and with the feeling of healers being stuck being health bots, because now you can maintain yourself a bit easier in lane. It's also to add more strategy to your laning. It used to be the health globes only really mattered if you had a talent where you had to collect them all. And you very rarely saw someone actually trying to zone their opponent out of getting their health globe. But now, if you can zone the opponent out of getting the health globe while you get yours, that's actually going to be a huge buff to your sustain and can really help you win that lane as opposed to losing it. It could really be the difference between who pushes their lane and who doesn't. Lane minions have now been buffed. They now do double damage to structures, so there's more advantage to pushing them into a tower. If you can't do a lot of damage to structures, but you can clear creep, if you can clear minions, you can help your minions push in, and your minions will do massive damage to the structures. It also just plain makes it more rewarding, and it even helps stuff with like Asmodan's Black Pool build, which grants more damage to minions. Suddenly they would be doing psycho damage to the minions with that. To the structures with that. Also, catapults have been buffed. They have increased attack range and increased sight range. And more importantly, they fixate on structures. See, it used to be, your catapults would come up to the enemy core, they'd do like 2 shots on the core, and then the minion wave would spawn and they would attack the minion waves. And then they would die from the minion wave, where they would waste a whole lot of shots on the minion wave until they started actually hitting the core again. Now, if they get to the core, they're just hitting the core. And catapults do crazy damage to the core, especially since they're minions, so I'm pretty sure they get that extra effect versus structures. Catapults are going to be huge pressure. Getting an early keep is going to go from like a nice advantage to a super critical advantage that your opponents cannot ignore. Yeah. Also, on Garden of Terror, they have buffed the player-controlled terror. Basically, they found that after their nerfs to the terror, the matches were taking way too long. Apparently, on the new PTR, the average match on Garden of Terror is only like 18 minutes. If you'll recall, they changed it so that the terror's plant doesn't do direct damage to structures, so you can't leave it behind. And instead, it will increase the terror's damage to structures. Well, they have massively increased the bonus damage that the terror gets from having its plant. So the terror should be able to push a lot harder. They've also made some changes to some of the general talents left in the game. For example, Bribe now gives you 1 stack of Bribe for every lane minion that dies near you. And 20 stacks is enough to clear any camp. See, it used to be you'd have enough Bribe to clear like 2 things, and it would be 1, 2. So you could clear this camp no problem with Bribe. But you would have trouble clearing this camp with Bribe, because you would clear 1, 2 and still have to kill 2. Now 20 just gives you the camp. However, oh, and you have a maximum of 100. Meanwhile, Rainer's version has also been buffed to have a max of 100. The Vikings version has been buffed to have a maximum of 200, but it takes 40 stacks for them to clear camp. Which makes sense because you're Vikings, you're getting creeped in 3 lanes, should be fine. The Executioner talent. If you don't remember, they changed Executioner so that you get bonus damage to your auto attacks for 3 seconds after you hit a target that's been affected by CC. Apparently that was proccing off of things other than heroes. Like if you hit a minion that was slowed, you would get that bonus damage. Or if you hit a structure that was affected by Sylvanas' poinus. Or if you hit a structure that was affected by Sylvanas' poison, you would get that bonus, and they've now changed it so you only get it off of heroes. And Relentless will no longer reduce the duration of silences. Apparently that's something they were discussing for a long time, and they decided, yeah, just slows and stuns and roots. Many heroes have received at least a small tweak to their talents. Some heroes have had a lot of talent changes, and at least one hero has had a major rework. So I'm going to start working on heroes now, and it may be pretty obvious the first person I'm going to talk about is Cho'Gall. Cho's Twisting Nether ultimate has had its cooldown reduced. He's also had the Shove talent cooldown reduced, so you can force Cho around a bit more. And Speed of Twilight has had its movement bonus more than doubled, so that's a significant boost. Also, the damage of Cho's ultimate Upheaval has been damaged. And this Surging Dash, in live it's 25% speed boost, but in the PTR it is a 50% speed boost.
With every step,
It will be a fast giant.
this will be their
Next up is Greymane. Greymane's human attacks have had their damage decreased. Cocktail has also been changed. It's going to have a longer cooldown, and the damage for the explosion is going to be greater.
I fight for my countrymen.
Go for the Throat ultimate has had its cooldown increased, but has also had its damage increased. And the Marked for the Kill ultimate is just completely different. Right now, you turn into a human, you take a shot, it's a skill shot, the first enemy hero it hits takes some damage, and for 5 seconds they are vulnerable. And you can reactivate it to leap at them as a Worgen. The change is going to keep it a skill shot, and make them vulnerable for 5 seconds. But you can no longer reactivate it to turn into a Worgen. Instead, what happens is every time you damage the hero that you've got the vulnerable on, it will refresh the vulnerable. And the level 20 upgrade will actually make it so that any friendly allies, heroes, hitting the vulnerable target will refresh their vulnerability. I think the cooldown has also been decreased. Level 4, this Insatiable talent, the amount of mana restored has been changed to 10 mana instead of 5. Incendiary Elixir, the cooldown reduction has been increased, but just enough to offset the increased cooldown of the actual Q ability. So the net result is, if you take this quest before and after the patch, and you complete the quest, you'll have the same cooldown. You'll just have a greater cooldown after the patch if you don't have this quest completed. They've also removed the impact damage increased the explosion damage, and lowered the cap. Level 16, this Concentrated Blast talent is gone. Instead, there's a new talent, Eager Wolf, which increases the attack speed bonus of Inner Beast by an additional 40% after it's been active for 4 seconds. So that should be a pretty huge speed boost. Up next is Jaina. Now, before I even start this one, I've got some explaining to do. Basically, Blizzard is hoping that these changes will help Jaina find a niche as a battlefield control mage. Because she's not going to be out-damaging Kayle or Li Ming or anyone like that. But most people I've talked to or read about consider these nerfs.
What's wrong? Afraid of me?
Which really hurts because this is already a character that's considered to be in kind of a weak position and not seeing play in competitive. I have seen like one person who said it's a buff, but I mean, we'll kind of have to see how it plays out on live servers. So right now, Blizzard has 2 waves, and they do 366 damage apiece. What they're changing is they're going to make Blizzard have 3 waves by default. And you think, wow, that's awesome, you're getting 3 waves when you used to get 2, and 3 is better than 2, so that's a buff, right? But here's the thing. People already find it relatively hard to get someone to hit someone with both waves of Blizzard. They've added 3 waves, but each wave doesn't still do 366 damage. So you're getting less damage per wave, and you have a decreased chance of hitting someone with all 3 waves.
With a Karen
So most of the time you're going to be doing a lot less damage. Cone of Cold, however, has been buffed. It's going to be doing more damage for less mana. So that's always nice. Next up, some talent changes. At level 4, Arcane Intellect is going to have its mana returned reduced. Right now it's 25 and it's going to be 20. Envenom is going to be removed. And Frost Armor, which used to be level 7, is being moved here. And it's also being nerfed. It's going to block less damage and have an increased cooldown. In addition to reducing the cooldown of Ice Lance if you hit an already chilled target, the new Ice Lance is also going to return some mana. And Ice Flows is increasing the cooldown reduction. Right now it's 0.5 seconds, and it's going to be 1 second, up to a maximum of 5 seconds. Over at level 13, this Ice Barrier Shield is going to last an extra second. At level 16, Snow Crash has been removed, and the level 4 talent Snowstorm has been moved to level 16. So if you want to increase the radius of your 3-wave blizzard, you're going to have to wait a long, long time.
Outstanding.
Next up on Kael'thas, Gravity Lapse has been nerfed. It has a longer cooldown and it will cost more mana. The level 1 Convection quest will have an increased damage bonus if you complete the quest. Energy Royal will have its cooldown increased, which effectively counters out the added cooldown that they've added to the base talent. So basically, if you get this, it's going to be back to the normal cooldown that you would have before, if you took this talent. I think I phrased that really poorly, and I'm alright with that. At level 7, Sunfire Enchantment and Gravity Crush have both had their damage decreased. And at level 20, apparently this rebirth, where you get to move the Phoenix, the new locations you could reach were based on where Kael was standing. Now it's based on where the Phoenix is standing. And it's something you can do from anywhere in the map. So if you cast a Phoenix and then the dragon punts you and you're over here, you can still retarget your Phoenix.
For Quel'Thalas.
No time like the present.
Now
A
let's talk about
demonstration of power. Amusing.
Kerrigan for a second. Kerrigan is in a really interesting place when it comes to competitive pots right now. She's not used in most maps, but there's 2 maps where she's considered really good. And the reason is because of her Ravage-based build. So the current build is you get Siphoning Impact, where Ravage heals Kerrigan. Then you get Clean Kill, where Ravage gives you all your mana back if you kill with it. And you actually have a slight leeway there. And it will also increase the damage of your next Ravage.
Sounds like fun.
Now, these 2 talents combined have made her really strong on Infernal Shrines and on Tomb of the Spider Queen. The reason she's strong on those maps is because you can actually clear minions really quickly by going jump, 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 jump. I messed it up somewhere. Jump, 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 jump. So like on Infernal Shrines, you can clear a shrine by yourself without taking any damage to your health or mana just by going Q, 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 Q. See, the reason I'm messing up there is because my Q is auto-targeting Arthas even though I'm trying to target the minions. Annoying. Q. Yeah, that did it again. Rawr. Anyway. And here's the thing. This is the only build that's currently considered really competitive for Kerrigan. Those are the only maps where you really see Kerrigan in competitive play. And they're nerfing that build.
What's wrong? Scared?
Now, in this patch in general, they're trying to make it so that people don't have one set build, and they're trying to, sometimes nerf the strong build, more often buff weird talents to try and make them more appealing. But it just really hurts to have the only build that's considered viable nerfed, and I'm not sure if their new buffs really make for a new competitive Kerrigan. So, right now, Ravage will heal me when I jump to someone, and it doesn't matter what their health is like. I didn't kill Arthas, but I still got my, I still got healed from it. They've nerfed this so that it will only heal you if you get the killing blow with it. So I would have to actually kill Arthas with my Q, which that did not work. So I would not have gotten healed right there. Then they've changed clean kill, so instead of getting 100% of your mana back, you get 75% of your mana back. Now, what are the other changes? What are the buffs that are supposed to kind of even this out? Well, Sharpened Blades has had its damage increased. Fury of the Swarm has had its splash damage increased. Psionic Pulse has had its damage increased. Impaling Swarm has been removed. Adaptation's mana cost refund has gone up, so it'll be all of your mana. So you can jump to allies more freely. Assimilation Mastery has had its shields increased. And at level 7 you will now have Blade Torrent, which I think has some kind of change, but I clearly messed it up when writing my notes. At level 13 they have buffed Clean's Rush, it's had its speed increased, and I think also its duration increased. No, it's had its movement speed increased, and it's had its cooldown decreased. And Lingering Essence has been removed. Also, Kerrigan's basic health and basic attack damage have been increased. Now again, is this enough to make up for losing the one build that made her viable? Is this enough to make her viable in general? I don't know. The only change I really like are the stat changes and Queen's Rush. Other than that, I don't know if the shields have been improved enough to make them actually viable. Can't do that no more.
Let's go.
Next up,
As long as this
Lunara.
doesn't take too long.
Her Leap Ultimate's damage has been increased. Photosynthesis has had its mana return increased. Skybound Wisp now reveals a larger area. And Time Lost has increased cooldown reduction. The Splintered Spear will now split to 4 enemies instead of 3 enemies. But here's the downside. Nature's Calling has had its damage bonus decreased. I think it's going down from 200% to 150%. So that's gonna hurt, because that's a lot of times when Lunara was chosen on competitive, it was specifically because of that ability. Pestering Blossom's range has been increased. Choking Pollen's damage bonus has been increased. And Abolish Magic has had its cooldown decreased.
I seek the enemies of the forest.
I'm not going to bother changing to Tracer because Tracer's only had one change. But it's a very important change. Tracer's stuck message will take up a smaller amount of your screen. Hallelujah! Abathur has had some changes. I think they've mostly been trying to make his symbiote a bit more viable, because right now everyone's kind of going Toxic Nest and blood pushing. That said, there has been one small nerf to symbiote, except it's more of a common sense change. So if you're symbioting someone who gets hit into stasis, you cannot use your symbiote abilities while you are in, while they are in stasis. So if they're hit by stasis, you can't stab or spike burst or carapace anymore. You can still cancel the symbiote, but you can't keep using your symbiote abilities, which, I mean, sounds fair. Regenerative Microbes, it used to be for the duration of the symbiote, and now it's for 4 seconds. And the heal amount per second has doubled. Ballistifor's duration has been increased. Sustained Carapace now increases the amount of shields rather than the duration, which I would like to point out completely makes the name Sustained Carapace no longer make sense, but you know, whatever. Vile Nest's slow duration has been decreased. And Network Carapace now also applies to all allied heroes as well as the minions and mercenaries. Assault Rage damage bonus has been increased significantly. And Spatial Efficiency now also lowers the cooldown of stab. Adrenaline Boost's movement speed has been increased. And Volatile Mutation has had an increase to its pulse damage. Evolution Complete's Deep Tunnel ability has had its cooldown reduced, and the shield from Evolutionary Link has been increased. Asmodan will be having some pretty noticeable changes. They're not nerfing Taste for Blood too much. The only difference is that you have less leeway. So right now, enemies that die within a second and a half of being hit by my Q will give me stacks, but it's going to change to just be 1 second. But other than that, they're trying to give him other options, including really buffing the lasers and giving him another quest talent at level 1. So Sieging Wrath is also going to be a quest talent. It will gain 4 damage for every enemy hero hit, up to a max of 100 damage. And if you get to that max, you will be rewarded with another extra 100 damage, and you will increase the maximum range by 33%. Can I point out that Sieging Wrath now increases by hero damage, which makes it more of a hero damage spell and not a siege spell? Why do they change the functionality without changing the name? Master of Destruction will no longer have bonus damage to structures. Instead, it will now grant 10% range after each level of damage ramp up. I don't know what that sentence means. I think it means, like, for the longer you're damaging. Yeah, the amount grows the longer it's channeled. So I think what they're saying is that for every, like, rank up, for every time it increases the amount of damage because you've been channeling for a long time, it will grant 10% range. So if you've been channeling it longer on someone, you'll have more range to continue channeling it longer on someone. Gluttony's healing has been increased, and Sin Grasp's damage and duration have both been increased. Infernal Globe no longer gives you the damage over time, it just makes your Qs faster. Gluttonous Ward's healing has been increased, and Infused Power's damage has been increased significantly. Also, right now it's level 7, and it's going to be level 13. Meanwhile, March of Sin, which is currently at level 13, will be at level 7, so you'll get the ability to move with All Shall Burn much easier. Just think about that. If you're getting bonus range the longer you're on someone and you can move to follow them, you'll be getting really crazy range. It will really help stack on the damage. Blood for Blood has also been changed to Sin for Sin, which is the exact same as Blood for Blood, except you can use it while channeling your laser. Gazlo has had a very important quality of life change.
Now that's thinking like a goblin.
Gazlo has had a very important quality of life change. Currently, if you have a turret and you want to salvage it and you are mounted up, it dismounts you. They're changing it so you can remain mounted, which is something that used to be the case and then they took away and now they're giving back. Whatever. Level 7, your rocket turret damage has been increased. Level 13, your extra large bombs radius has been increased. And Robo-Gobo damage and Mechalord damage have both been increased to 200% bonus damage. So, they're trying to buff that ultimate. Is it worth giving up the teamfight ultimate? I don't know. A couple small changes that are not worth me changing heroes. Sylvanas' Windrunner talent, the one that lets you have 2 castings of her Banshees, it now has a slight cooldown, just so that if you press the E button too much, you won't accidentally get your second casting. So that's supposed to be a quality of life change. And then Vikings now have individual messages when hearthing. So if Eric hearths, you will see, like, Eric is hearthing, instead of the Lost Vikings are hearthing when 2 of them are not. And Zul's Mortal Wound has been changed slightly. So if the healing effect that he's blocking healing from outlasts the Mortal Wound, then the healing effect will not be halved after Mortal Wound ends. And Mortal Wound, I think, Mortal Wound will not affect healing while healing or the duration of heal over times. Up next is the big one. Zagara has received a major rework. Now, in one sense, this feels weird because she's currently in a really good place. She gets played in competitive, but she's not overpowered. She's strong, she's relatively easy to use, but also kind of easy to mess up.
Cunning.
But the reason they're reworking her is because she basically has one functioning talent build right now. So what's happening in this rework? Well, first off, her base damage, her basic attack damage has been decreased. Don't panic. I would not call the rework an overall nerf. In fact, a lot of people are saying she's OP on the PTR.
Let me show you the glory of the swarm.
Now, how good it actually is in live when more people are playing against it, we'll have to see. But
Yes.
nice when people are saying things are OP, right? The Creep Tumor, its functionality has changed. It now does not give you a health regeneration. Instead, it gives you 20% attack range bonus while you are on the creep. The health of the actual tumor has been increased. Tumors do not cost mana. They have an increased cast range. Their cooldown has been increased slightly, but at the same time, they are going to have a greater radius at the base. What does cast range mean? Well, right now, if I select to put a target there, I have to walk until I'm right next to it. The cast increase means I would be able to cast it maybe here from here without having to move. I just poked the computer. Oh my lord. Obviously, because of this, they have removed Reconstitution, Tumor Clutch, and Endless Creep, because they all either no longer fit with what Creep does, or have been baked into the basic Creep. That's pretty neat. Baneling Barrage has also been changed. Right now, if I cast Baneling Barrage, I will be stuck standing still while 4 Banelings roll out of me. In the future, Baneling Barrage will fire 1 Baneling at a time with 4 charges. So you kind of go Q, 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 Q if you want 4. And it costs 10 mana per Banelings. Right now it costs 50 mana. So that's a slight mana decrease if you're using all 4. They have a 3-second cooldown on their charge. And the damage per Baneling has been increased. And more importantly, they no longer can be targeted. Right now you could Stitches hook one of those Banelings. Or you could, like, if you're doing Banelings and Jaina hits a Blizzard, the Blizzard will kill the Banelings. That's not going to happen anymore. Hunter Killer, meanwhile, has had its damage decreased. Sad, but it was probably necessary, as, let's face it, everyone knows that's a really annoying ability. Oh, I didn't think I was going to kill him.
I stand triumphant.
And Nidus Network has been massively reworked. Some people are actually saying it's stronger than Maw now. Which is great. Because it means you're choosing between a strong ultimate and a strong team ultimate. Team fighting ultimate. So it's a bit more of an actual choice now. So what does Nidus Network do now? Well, first off, it passively increases how much your creep will spread. And it makes all of your basic attacks lower your cooldowns when you're on creep. But Nidus Networks can now only be placed on creep. Previously, they could just be placed any place you had vision. Now it has to specifically be on creep. That said, it's harder to get into your Niduses. Damage will stop your channel, but the channel time is shorter. And the health and mana regen you get when inside Nidus is increased. And more importantly, the number of Niduses has been increased. Right now, the maximum number of Niduses is 4. In the PTR, it's 10. 10!
Creature.
You're gonna have so many Niduses, you're not even gonna know what to do with them. There are also a large number of challenge changes. Already mentioned Reconstitution is gone. Centrifugal Hooks is also gone. And Demolitionist is also gone. Corpse Feeder has had its damage reduction increased, and it now also reduces the cooldown of Infested Drop. Infest, which is currently at level 4, is now at level 1, and it's completely different, and probably the talent you want, in my opinion. Infest is now a passive. It's not an active ability, it's just always on, where nearby ranged minions deal 200% more damage. It's also a quest, so for every 1,000 siege damage dealt by those ranged minions, I assume, could be by you, is not wording, but for every 1,000 siege damage dealt, you increase that damage bonus by 1%. And
Without question.
I'm not 100% sure, and unfortunately I can't test it because the PTR really hates me, but I assume that bonus damage stacks with the basic bonus damage that creep get in the new patch. So these guys will be doing insane structure damage. Like absolutely nuts psycho damage on structures. Next, at level 4, Envenom Spines no longer adds basic attack range, and it's now an activated ability. And Envenom has been removed. So Envenom Spines is now basically Zagura's version of Envenom. It's like Envenom with a better range.
Complete.
Meanwhile, Medusa Blades has had its damage increased. Tumor Clutch obviously has been removed, as mentioned before.
Without question.
And there will be a new talent called Serrated Spines. Serrated Spines is a quest where every basic attack made against heroes increases your base attack damage. So if you're really hurting from that base attack damage decrease, all you have to do is hit a whole bunch of heroes and you'll get some more base attack bonus. At level 7, everything has been removed except for Volatile Acid. There's a new talent called Viscous Acid, where Baneling slow targets by 25% for 1.5 seconds. Bile Drop, which is currently at level 13, has been moved here. Its damage has been halved, but it's now a quest where each time you hit a hero with the drop, it will increase the damage by 10%. And once you reach 150 bonus damage, the impact, the radius, I think, will be increased. I apparently wrote that poorly in my notes. Baneling Massacre has also been moved from 16 to level 7, and its function has been changed to give you 2 more charges of Banelings. So instead of having 4 Banelings that you can go pew 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 pew, we'll have 6 Banelings. At level 13, Groove Spines and Giant Killer have been removed. And there's a new talent called Hydralist Transfusion, where Zagura is healed for 75% of damage dealt by Hunter Killer. This is currently used as a combo with the new Mutalisk, which is at level 16, which makes Zagura virtually unkillable if you do the combo. There's also a new talent called Protective Coating, where Zagura takes 20% reduced damage from everything while on creep.
Our vengeance will be
Right now you don't need that, because right now the healing is broken. Now, why is the new talent where you get healing from your Hunter Killers broken? Well, because at level 16 you can turn your Hunter Killers into Mutalisks. And Mutalisks no longer have a time on their life. They will last until they are killed. So, what people are doing on the PTR is they're going over to a minion camp. They're casting W on it. They're leaving. They're putting these on all the camps. I think the Mutalisks are like... They're putting it on all the camps, and then they're just getting the passive healing from the Hunter Killers everywhere. I saw a video of a PTR Zagura tanking a boss. Not only soloing a boss, but she wasn't using her creatures to take the boss damage. She was actually just standing there and taking it and staying basically at cooldown. It was kind of sick. Fruit Expansion has been changed. It now reduces the cooldown of Hunter Killer by 6 seconds. So you don't have 2 charges, but you will be getting Hunter Killers faster. It's just to prevent you from going WW on one person like everyone always does. There's a new talent called Corrosive Saliva, where attacks from Hunter Killers deal an additional 2% of target's max HP. So it's like your Hunter Killers have Giant Killer. And at level 20, Broodling Nest and Bolt of the Storm have been removed. There's a new talent, which is called Endless Creep, which is the name of an old talent. But Endless Creep increases Creep Tumor cast range by 2,000%. You can basically put a Creep Tumor anywhere you have vision. And Tumor duration is increased from 240 seconds to 600 seconds. 600 seconds is a long time! And Zogger gets 20% move speed on Creep.
As you say.
Brightwing like it out here. Very pretty.
This one hurts, everybody.
Okay,
If you knew me,
then.
you know that Brightwing's been my favorite character basically the entire time I've been in Heroes of the Storm. Brightwing was the first character where I left versus AI and played in quick match. That was around the time where Brightwing was
Let's go together.
very powerful, and right before she became incredibly powerful. It already sucked when they nerfed her the last time, but you know, we kind of got used to it. And then there were a couple little buffs that made Face Shield really good, the Face Shield build. And now, they've nerfed the Face Shield build in an effort to try and improve her build variety.
You're chicken. Do you taste like chicken too? Let us find out.
I've seen it pretty hotly debated. I've seen it pretty hotly debated on Reddit whether this is a nerf or a buff. Some people are saying, like, it's a buff, you're just mad that they're changing your playstyle. And other people are saying, no, it's a nerf, you're not getting enough healing to counteract the loss of mobility. Because mobility is really Brightwing's forte, even more than healing. Alright, so what did they do? Soothing Mist, her trait, has had its healing increased noticeably. But Blink Heal has had its range reduced.
Fly
Hyper
now.
Shield, a Hyper Shift, no longer reduces the cooldown when Brightwing heals herself. It only works when you're healing allies. Dream Shot, which was level 7, has been moved to level 1. The Phase Shield on level 7, the duration has been halved and the amount has been reduced. And then Mystify's cooldown reduction has
Yes, I
been
will.
reduced. And at level 20, the upgrade to Emerald Wind. Right now, Emerald Wind gives you a passive bonus to your healing. And that passive bonus to your healing will be increased at level 20 if you take Continuous Wind. Some people are saying that with the buff to Soothing Mist and the changes to Mystified, that you're better off going with that build. And, I mean, we're gonna have to see it and play it on live before we can really decide. But it's just getting really frustrating because it feels like Brightwing's my favorite hero, and it feels like every time she's in a good place, it gets nerfed. And I'll admit that last time she was maybe a little too strong, but I felt like the nerf was too hard. And now, this is like an unnecessary nerf, because she wasn't even that OP.
Going, going. Why no fight? Are you scared? Or dumb? Maybe both.
I changed to Uther, but I'm
Watch
actually going
your
to talk about
paladin
Charism
at
first. Charism has only received one change, but it's being called a pretty major change. And people seem to think it's really, really good. Insight has been changed, the mana version of his trait. So every third basic attack restores 14 mana, but it's now a quest. And after you've done this 100 times, so 300 auto attacks on a really fast auto attacker,
I like it.
every third attack will also reduce the cooldown of basic abilities by 1 second. Now that means more heals to go with your more mana, So they're actually saying it's pretty effective. Now, Uther. Uther's received some change. A lot of people play Piano Uther. If you don't know what Piano Uther is, you get Protective Shield, Cleanse,
A wise decision.
Shrink Ray, Benediction.
Whatever it takes.
And I don't think they actually take Storm Shield, but let's take Storm Shield for full
Sound
effect.
decision.
This is Piano Uther, where you just have a ton of activatable abilities. You're just I can't even use 2 right now. That's Piano Uther. Very strong and competitive, and the devs are perfectly happy with Piano Uther. They have not nerfed Piano Uther. Rather, they're trying to give him some new talents and buff some other talents to give him another build. Because Piano Uther doesn't work as a build in, like, Bronze League. And that means Bronze League doesn't have a good Uther build.
Agreed.
So, first off, both ultimates have had their mana cost reduced. At level 1, block and reach have been removed. Hammer of the Lightbringer was at level 4, and it is now at level 1. And Wave of Light used to be at level 7, and it is now at level 1. And the mana return per hit and the maximum mana allowed to be returned have been increased.
Honor guides
Level
me.
4 Amplified Healing has been removed. And there's a new talent called Beacon of Light, where Uther heals himself for 30% of all healing done to allied heroes. Level 7 Holy Fire has been altered. It's now, it's a passive. You deal 18 damage per second to nearby enemies. And auto-attacking them will increase the damage by 20% for 3 seconds. And I think it can be stacked. It can be stacked multiple times for multiple increased damage. Clairvoyance has been removed. At level 13, Holy Shock's cooldown reduction against enemies has increased. And also, after hitting an enemy, the next Holy Light will heal an additional 50%. And Blessed Champion has a new function. After casting Holy Light, all basic attacks for 5 seconds will heal Uther and nearby allies for 20% of the amount of Holy Light.
For the light.
So you can already see they're just kind of buffing his other heals and the
This
heals
is the
he can
end
get off
for
of
you.
other abilities. Level 16, Gathering Radiance. Each hero that Holy Radiance passes through increases the healing and damage of the next Holy Radiance by 8% to a maximum of 80. Imposing Presence has been removed, and there's a new talent called Righteous Defense. Heroes healed by Holy Light take 50% less damage for 2 seconds. Basically,
sound
Holy Light has a
decision.
little resistance built in. A couple more heroes I'm not actually going to switch to. Arthas. His level 4 talent, Frozen Waste, has had its mana cost reduction increased. And level 7's Rune Tap has had the heal amount increased. And level 7's Icebound Fortitude has had the cooldown increased. So just a couple small buffs to a couple talents. Chen has had one very important change. Fortifying Brew will not be cancelled by reactivating the hotkey. If you press your D on Chen to drink, and you're slamming it because you need it to go off the second that CC ends or you're gonna die, it's not gonna get cancelled by you pressing D twice. Good change. As for Dahaka, they're buffing adaptation. Right now, it heals you after 5 seconds. It's changing to heal you after 4 seconds. And the level 20 upgrade is also going to lower the cooldown of adaptation by 30 seconds. Apex Predator is not going to be as strong. Right now, the cooldown reduction is 30 seconds, and it's going to be 25. Enduring Swarm, this bonus has been doubled. Primal Aggression now also increases the duration of Dark Swarm by half a second. Level 7's Essence Devourer talent is now a quest. Every regeneration globe collected increases your max essence by 1. And once you get 10 globes, 10, that's nothing, that's very small. Once you get 10 globes, it increases the amount of essence gained from globes from 10 to 15. Level 16's rapid regen has increased its heal. Yeah. I'm not going to switch to Leoric, but Leoric's had a few changes. Leoric level 1 Mana Thirst has had the cap removed for how much mana you can get back. You can get back as much mana as you want. Or as you can, whatever. Level 7 Lingering Apparition has increased Wraith Walk's duration. Level 13 Drain Momentum will increase Leo's speed while Drain Hope is active. And level 20 Buried Alive has had increased damage. Hey, come into my tower. Muradin's trait has had its base heal increased as well as its critical heal increased. Dwarf Toss, you're no longer unstoppable during the leap, but you have resistance when you land. The devs say that this is going to be a big buff at low level play and a little bit of a nerf at pro level play, but they're okay with that. And I think there's a trait that, there's a talent that improves second wind, like third wind improves second wind healing. I think that got buffed as well, but apparently I failed to write it in my notes.
This is the law of survival.
Agreed.
Sonya has had some
Let my
changes.
actions speak for me.
Endless Fury is gone. Shot of Fury will also passively increase your max Fury. So in a sense, these two have been combined. A level 4 Hurricane will also reduce the cooldown of Whirlwind.
Done.
Composite Spear will also increase the Fury gained from Ancient Spear. And Poison Spear has had its damage increased. Mystical Spear, your Spider-Man ability, has had its cooldown reduction reduced. Level 16 Nerves of Steel has had its cooldown increased. Furious Blow will increase Seismic Slam's damage, but also increase the Fury, I think. And the Crater that you get at level 20 has been buffed, so it now also reduces the cooldown of Leap by 20 seconds. The cooldown of Leap is already only 70 seconds, so with the upgrade you'll be leaping every 50 seconds to make that big crater. And Anger Management will not reduce CC duration, but the Fury gain will be doubled. The Fury bonus will be doubled. Right. Stitches! Right now his trait is if you get damaged, you leave some vile gas on the ground. And the devs basically said that this was doing more damage to the visuals of the game than it was to enemy heroes. So it's been changed. It will now be a gas of cloud that poisons nearby enemies for 3 seconds. Also, more importantly, Helping Hands, the one where you drag your allies, has been changed to be baseline. You always have Helping Hands. Now, the trick is, it's actually going to be an activated ability that you can toggle on and off. So if you want to grab an ally, you press 1 and turn Helping Hands on. Woo! If you do not want to grab an ally, you have it set so it won't grab allies and it'll only grab enemies. Also, considering Helping Hands is now automatic, that talent has obviously been removed. Oh, nice roots, Bot Furion. Nice roots. At level 4, Vile Cleaver and Mercenary Lord have been removed, and instead there's a new talent called Restorative Fumes, where every time an enemy hero takes damage from your new trait, you will get healed a little bit. And at level 7, Toxic Gas has had its radius increase reduced. It no longer increases the duration, but it now increases the damage by half. Tyrael has had a lot of small tweaks. His damage for his trait has been increased. Eldarin's cooldown has been reduced. Righteousness cooldown has been reduced. And Smite's cooldown has been reduced.
Indeed.
So if you thought he had mana problems before, now he can spam his abilities even more frequently. What? Protection in Death at level 1 has doubled its shield duration. Purge Evil has had its damage increased. And Even in Death, which used to be at a different tier, is now here, and will also increase the damage of your Death Explosion. Level 4! Heretic Reforging has been moved to level 4. And Retribution has a new functionality, where it increases the movement speed bonus and increases the duration. And it's now called Swift Retribution. Level 7, they've removed Angelic Momentum. Keep in mind, they've also reduced the cooldown of many of his abilities, and many of his other talents will now reduce the cooldown of a specific ability. So that's why they've taken away Angelic Momentum. It was getting too hard to balance, I guess. Angel's Grace has had its speed bonus buffed, like many other things in this patch. Reciprocate has had its damage increased. And Zealotry will now also reduce the Righteousness cooldown by 2 seconds, but the bonus duration is halved. Level 13! Angelic Might bonus only applies when hitting heroes with Smite, but the damage bonus has increased a lot. So this won't work on minions anymore, but it will do a lot more damage versus heroes. And Angelic Absorption has had its heal increased. Level 16, Blade of Justice does not increase attack damage anymore. Instead, it gives you 50% more attack speed for 5 seconds. And Salvation has increased its shield value per ally. And finally, Angel of Justice has had its cooldown reduction increased, so you'll be able to charge more often. Woo! Made it through the hero changes! Last up, bug fixes. As always, I'm not going to go through every bug fix because most of them are fixing bugs I've never even heard of. I'm going to bring up the ones that I know were a big deal and were bothering a lot of people. Basically, Falstad will no longer be killed by mines when he's flying. So no more trying to use flight across the entire map and getting killed by Avatar mines. Jaina's blizzards cannot hide in shrubs, you will still be able to see them. Nova's decoys will now try and use basic attacks against monsters and mercenaries. And once you get lethal decoy, they will actually use basic attacks against minions, which apparently they were not. And Rhaegar's ancestral healing will still heal Artanis or Joe, even if they're shielded at the moment of death. So like, Joe's indestructible, that used to cancel the ancestral, and now she will still get the ancestral. And apparently it's the same for Artanis' shield overload. That's it for this absolutely massive patch watch! If you like this, please like it. Like, the like button, like. Not like. Like, not just like it, but actually like it. Yeah. See you next time. Bye-bye. Not ready to leave yet? You can watch me play more HOTS, watch me play HOTS with Demonac, or watch Demonac and I fight over what show to watch in Anime Indecision.